to gather its information and really put a great stimulus package together for our Navajo people across the whole, across all four of our, in interior of our sacred mountains of $650 million. So the president will be sending that information over. As soon as we know the details, we will get that information out to the public on what the president has taken action on that, hopefully to fully sign that legislation into law. As the Navajo Nation Council has worked due diligently, again, with only his team members, but colleagues of the 24th Navajo Nation Council tremendously worked hard on that issue to get it passed. So I just wanted to say again, thank you to everyone again for being a part of this discussion. I know in the last forum, one of the key topics was that we really wanted to get the information out to everybody out there about the rights, the wrongs, the past, and the future of what this hemp activity has been going through. And as indicated, Chairman Nez, when opening up, really guided the idea of this as being issue prevalently an issue in Northern Agency. And this is something that I know the Navajo Nation is looking to work with, only with the Resource and Development Committee and the Law and Order Committee, but the council as a whole. But also, we need to work with the executive branch staff. And the executive branch staff is the ones that enforce what the Navajo Nation Council enacts on. And in that, we've been working together, as you heard from the last update from the Navajo Nation Department of Agriculture, the Navajo Nation Department of Justice, and the Navajo Nation Division of Public Safety. In those key items, we really looked at is wanting to get the experts on the air so that we could really move forward and try to identify what is the truth, what is required for everyone to actually understand where we're coming from and what the Navajo Nation Council is and has done in the last 20, 25 years in order for hemp to become a discussion at the dinner table at the local chapter house. The discussion items are something that we were really looking forward to and making sure that we can get things out there. So we really, Madam Chair Charles Newton, really wanted to emphasize some key factors too as well. She really wanted to say that, well, maybe Speaker, we need to go back and look at how we need to get the public's input more and more. And usually when we do that, we'll go out and have a public forum or a public discussion, and we'll invite the public out to our different events. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic at this time, we're unable to do that. We're unable to get a gathering together to get individuals to do a public forum. So this is one way that we thought we could do this today. We did notice, send a notice out to the community this past week, actually out to the whole entire Navajo Nation, and letting them know that what we're doing is we're going to be taking questions, and we're going to be looking at those questions and trying to say, what can we do to better open up the dialogue with the Navajo people? And we did get a couple of questions, and those questions we're going to be talking through today and this afternoon. I know that we do have individuals on the line too. Again, we have invited the same experts on to this discussion. So what we can do from there is identify what's most important, identify what is the questions from the people, but most importantly, getting this information out to everyone. So before I do that, let me go ahead and go back to the floor. Is Madam Chair Amber Crotty or Honorable Charlene So on the line right now? If not, thank you again, everyone, for being a part of this discussion. Chairman, or Madam Chair Charles Newton, if there's anything that you'd like to say just now before we go into the couple of the questions that we have, I think right now is a time to just open up and recap on what your thoughts are, and then we can go into specifically some of the questions that were identified and sent to the Speaker's office over the past week. I'll start with you, Madam Chair, Charles Newman.
Shatilla Speaker Damon, Honorable Rick. Before we actually go into the discussion of the hemp, Speaker, I would like to say that Friday we did celebrate the National Navajo Code Talkers Day. As I understand, the legislative branch did post an online virtual event to honor and commemorate the national holiday, and it was done in a safe and socially distanced manner. Many dignitaries did send their comments, including the United States Marine Corps, General retired James Mattis, Governor Jerry Herbert, Governor Doug Ducey, Senator Martha McSally, and of course our own Navajo Code Talkers, who also delivered messages to the Navajo people about their experiences, and then also shared their sentiments of the day. Those comments, as you know, Speaker, they can still be seen and viewed on the Navajo Nation Council's Facebook page online. I just wanted to remind the listeners of this, and also, Speaker, say thank you for honoring our Navajo Code Talkers in that manner. So that's kind of what I wanted to start off with. It was a good day, and everybody celebrated this day on Friday. As you stated, Speaker, there were a lot of questions after the first public forum that were presented to Council on both sides. People who are for the hemp, and then people who are against the hemp. I think that we did receive a lot of those questions, but as you stated, Speaker, a lot of these questions technically are for experts to answer. And so I know that you said that we are going to have other people on the line who will be able to answer these questions for us. But I can say that they are really good questions. A lot of them deal with questions about benefits to the Navajo Nation, as well as negatives that are happening within the up and down the San Juan River that people are experiencing. So there's an array of questions that are before us at this time. And I just want to say again that a lot of these questions really are for the experts. So I'm hoping that we can get Dr. Lombardi from NAPI, who is the expert there at NAPI, who's cultivating the hemp with New Mexico State University, on the line, because I feel like a lot of these questions do pertain to his expertise, Speaker. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Shna, Honorable Rick Nez.
Thank you. Ida la copa na de kitten le dosa nature da osa. I hate all a hati. Don't edo hate all a happen hat a hakishin gets Asian coro nabik eel kit or less. Should not see any. That is must argue on us for. A call lago arguing that is unle. Sahaja nature checks it out. Edo nature and the horse neto. Koro, a late incident there, baby city, Asto, the Chinese and all less, Aro Eden and a call the radar she, Kitame, Ihata she, Ida, Koro, Hemp, or Gehegi, Hams, Sagoshi, Peshpans, Ando, not Anit and Zeniki. Say, but you know, I'd say Pieta she, Peshpans, Anda Shijao she, Tide. Adole, ya nast in le, a call, ya nast in Lenike, the Cro, THC, bedin, ADK, hate all a Yahodo, Nato, Hande, Nasco, hate other Hajo, that's been on a long shame for Lian that I don't know about it, data. So a hater, make ear the case that all I is a hot abbey that the shade of Neda. So I in the page Arizona, aro peso ne chen hol in the le splatin the mail be ga han shin koje peso ya na hen te he ki as dat el khalo se chen ha ke dat el khalo ki benin na che khait ala e khoro nda hoit economic development and that khoro peso ya na hen te so le no ya aran na bik el ki hot end the khoro la ko san histan na sai bet as tan of sa ako di khait do na si do hat la ya the kick echo ti that and master that and hit and negi ki the legos khota no dan dai de kit aron that khela ya sto ba hui do asa no jo khota hol just ya ti ni khot da ya just kaya hat saje be la len la ya be la len ke ti da aje New Mexico State University Research Center known as KGAK ya da KGAK the Christians at the Hemp nick at the dolly so KDK yen still to quick hot on hit hako the hot egg environment the ne to hit shinta dash to run the whole train then given that KDK yen still to no to lago benigeki quit bajo Bespa an korosa beta na hodit la slinde na kida ta fara te aje yesen keten ne job be hosten do le kon da ta nego jonde kor hol justende large tek da do li ha ge benin na koro de ne koro ayos do hot era selin la ko ek ata Hadet ego. And that on Nabik kit and hit no the Naso con gold to his Andra Yahata Hoit hot end. Beso Yahanahan Deto lessons and go either Bohosta Ako Behas Anibik Eho Hadatet Ege Kek Ako Yaha San Hel Hanahat So Hadet ego go o Tilnego ne Hostatil go or Bigas or Isabenia. Robin a hot era. A cote coro hajor or less or hajob and yellow lessiki you had behas an shahat el yago hot abesfans an haye la sin out the kaya hot sarge. I don't need que lyrical nana be shalana splain said physical. Na kidnas nothing a death is big a coco. Cortical. Horse physical have lands land and 5 acres nini big go ya be land or less so as a hande the research in the kahagi hajo hatten ya other horse at all less nego be lana splain a cotira be has ani hadaliagi it ego aqua has angit ya babe lago it all guess sala ya Nage has ago behas ani hatatet han so goshin panchi kistoti betho hait aushin my sabedin neneke THC agent ka dide tanta tra go bega go do okoko ya hemp a check it up at Tisco trago but Tisco ya marijuana hot be ochiti it's not sabedin neneke THC Ako do is the do lesko be hot it a de job has ani hadatet edo gendes khado khebchelia khakitak as aniki hak eto liado did attack as anikish yut asanti GPS ni be hosangosh akwi a hot so okhrat goda banda ede kidden la akoti digi benina hot gende khato khait shin nas the shin the nether ins no the shin khait balnado le and the sahajo kwi be has aniki hash edo netiki ben ye kwi party all staten la aron shek abi pesh bahas anda shi jan denike ya joyen da edes kito ya hunya go naikias ke ana gaina be landa is neta hatne ke to khot era o tne bes a ko hatne halan ata behs ani hadal na ko benina khot ta be nada tsle ta be bes ba anda ta chilne go khashit ai ara behs ani hajo ada chilada khashit ai ara hajo ben da chisnista Disjir een genanis Eliago could be neat. I thought that she lago ada a good coshed or hot edit on a cook hon savoy hanchen ado lately could de hot era behas ani Belas Lege CJN 24-19 or Diego a June is the city be on the eta belas ne I don't need cylinder is kada maybe CMY 4320 والجيجو بهز أني أكوادي خدليا أكوي بلكانك هسا شجاكي إنيجو أيها creating a continuing singular exception to the Navajo Nation's prohibition on the cultivation, growth, possession, development, or propagation of hemp, Nela. And then it gave أيها Sago has ago de be has ani ge hated neto be nado le liki ha a kodole no bakago qui be la azle hokaja qui kaya hotel bidin nije NAPI je ko hot be has ani na kigo ke hona ana a qui hatelia ado kade na neshike think akro Kait ocean be has ani hadad naheki Koropen banate ancient or late masco once survivor has street or a sheher.
Thank you very much, Chairman. I do believe we have a couple of my other colleagues on the line too. Let me have them introduce themselves and they have a discussion topic.
KNDN, Farmington, New Mexico, 960 AM.
Colleagues, can you hear me? Oh, there, Chairman Daniel So. KGAK. I just heard the banner from KNDN, so I thought I lost translation again. Chairman, good afternoon. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we can go from there. If you have a discussion topic or just want to do an overview of hemp, you're more than welcome right now, Chairman.
Thank you. Ado, the Kado, the Tezen, Koya, Kato, Kodak, as Argi, Kada, the Yaki, Sato Aya, Oyo Sahoto, Bayachi, to Kaoto, Banhata, just I'd neck at a dark to a see nature. Lord, none saigi. The Western de Shigi, Sato, okay, that the Lieto and the Jeto, Hina Glossy, Virginia at a couldn't cut a Kinahon a none saigi. Will yagi a quaggy sato, Kada del ye, Selene, of course, the whole area. Shahani, O quidget, dark ehotage, oh, the Nabin Trato lake. Here what our about what the nation, Nabin Trato lake, research been yet. Don't a Sahona that deal with. Quaggy Kahoshi, Hashito, with his army does it. Oh, she get a teaching of Nache Taho, Diego that deal with a Kuja Adne the base on Igi a Quaggy Sicily had the Nahaso Yaji a quail. ADB go a Quaggy, Navajo Nation, the Kai, a Gadol, Yehodotni. A Quaggy Cato a Bay Denil is. A Joe Eltosing, Joe, but not Elzen do Lesto. I see his on the Yajigi regulations will Yagi AD Sato a Hadaliad. The end of the Kujo. Tornlinjo Papa Kedat the Lieto Lake Winton. And I don't such a that is what la. So what are about what I mean to put a thousand any now so how long do the Joe has on has lain even quaggy cut email spot or lately need the neb found email spot or lately they tell yan sick case so halito but that is netly is got that away who needs in the lately even yeah quaggy the whole so here the tiller Speaker Damon to tiller Ricky Nez Ado she as Eugenia Charles Martin Newton quaggy has a inil only and that's a chato a not a dol nitli a nit oh a inils and only ligi quaggy the ka inil only so Taylor Kedo should the should case and she Daniel so and she do manish Tenjikin slow manish is touching bus chin do discussion does it say do Nahapan it is le not nail gene or yedo a uses do kunde this gene a tape b partners little because I a quaggy a not on instant baseball is on a what a nature a shana east clad or less quaggy a so that would be my thoughts on what we're proceeding with. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Daniel. So I got one more individual that's on the line with us, our colleague, Chairman Jamie Hino. Chairman? Chairman Hino, are you there? Not on. Thank you, though, again, Chairman Daniel So, for that wonderful overview. I guess the questions now is moving it forward and recommendations on what we do have. I hope we have individuals from the Department of Justice. Are you on? I think this first question is going to be referenced towards you. Without further ado, colleagues, I'll go ahead and read the first question that was. There was a couple of questions pertaining to certain activities and regulations. But let me go ahead and read this first question as we just jump right into the question. Can the Navajo Nation sign an executive order to start the process to regulate and cultivate hemp and marijuana? Could the Navajo Nation benefit from taxation on hemp and marijuana? And if so, how much would be taxed? Would the tax of the hemp activity contribute to the funding or funds for the tribe? Could the Navajo Nation provide better warehouses to control light and smell from the hemp activity? If the Navajo Nation were to jump on board with the hemp activity, could we bring in the Navajo preference in effect for employment? Could the Navajo Nation provide a biodegradable alternative rather than concrete related to these hemp greenhouse activities? Is there a way to conserve water more effectively related to the hemp activity? And like Madam Chair Charles Lewin indicated, some of these questions are needed to be answered by more of the experts. So I guess we can go back to the first question. Can the Navajo Nation sign an executive order to start the process to regulate and cultivate hemp and marijuana? I think more important, to answer that question, I think we would have to work, to refer to the Department of Justice. And as I think one of the future's recommendations is why is the Navajo Nation Council really utilizing our efforts to really try to tackle this when the executive portion of the government is the one that's supposed to execute these initiatives. At the legislative branch, we create the laws in a three-branch government. The executive branch is the one that executes them. So more importantly, can the Navajo Nation sign an executive order to start the process to regulate and cultivate hemp or marijuana? I would leave that up to the executive branch to answer that. But is there anybody on from the Department of Justice that can clarify that? DOJ?
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Yes, Madam Chair.
Speaker, just really quickly, I think it's important that we clarify exactly what an executive order is. An executive order is usually issued by the president, and it basically it's the president that's mandating orders for the executive branch. So when the question about whether the Navajo Nation could sign an executive order, the executive order would have to come from the president's office, and it would be directing his directors or the executive branch on creating a regulation. So I think that needs to be clarified first. An executive order is not what the legislative branch creates, and it's not, an executive order is not something that's voted on by the legislative branch. So I think that there needs to be clarification on the difference between an executive order and also the laws that are passed down by council. But I think that is a very fair question in that the council is normally required to work with the executive directors when we're creating law. Are created without the assistance of the executive branch because it's a choice that is made at that point. So in most cases, whenever a council delegate introduces laws, some of the first questions that are received is, did you work with the executive branch or did you work with a director on those particular laws? I believe in this case, the regulations on hemp would have to come from the Department of Agriculture, if I'm not mistaken. And that is something that the president could direct the director, Mr. Chabala, to work with RDC to start on writing these regulations. So I just wanted to clarify that for our listeners, Speaker, because I think when we talk about executive order, there's always confusion about what an executive order is. It's it's different from a law that is voted on by council. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for that clarification. And just to add on to that, I don't know if anybody's on now for the Department of Justice, but correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Chair. Also, on the executive order side, even if there was an executive order issued, Navajo Nation Council would still have to pass laws, and pass the regulations because the executive order couldn't supersede any kind of law. Tribal code, I guess you would say in this case.
Speaker, that is a great question. Unfortunately, as you know, council delegates are not allowed to practice law. And so if I were to clarify that, I would be practicing law. So if I'm sure DOJ could clarify that question for you if they're on the line. But that is a great question. Thank you.
Okay. But I don't know, is DOJ on the line now? I think we summed up a couple of responses on that. Let me go on to the next one. I think this is something we can answer collectively. Could the Navajo Nation benefit from taxation on hemp and marijuana? If so, how much would be taxed? It would actually be up to the Navajo Nation Tax Commission. Let's say if the Navajo Nation did pass a regulation to tax hemp, or if we were going to tax anything. Recently, the Navajo Nation Council has passed a junk food tax. So all the junk food across the whole Navajo Nation is taxed. So let's say hypothetically, if there was the hemp or marijuana sold on the Navajo Nation, it would be up to the Navajo Nation Council working together with the Navajo Nation Tax Commission to develop policies and procedures, and also how much that tax could be and would be, so that if that did become a reality, and if the Navajo Nation did go down that path, we would be looking at options for different types of taxation. And then I guess that goes into the next question: would the tax from the hemp activity contribute to the funds for the Navajo Nation? As any taxable funds come into the Navajo Nation, this is just being the former Budget and Finance Chairman, working together with the Controller's Office, working together with OMB. All the dollars that come into the nation are subjugated to where the Navajo Nation Council identifies where they could be expended.
Unplug it if you have to turn. I don't know how you turn it off.
So, in that case, the Navajo Nation Council would be the one to identify where these funds would come from if hemp or marijuana was ever to be contributing any kind of tax back to the Navajo Nation. In some cases, like the Navajo Nation gets revenues from sales tax, and the sales tax from the Navajo Nation usually goes back to economic development projects, usually goes back and recently funding the firefighters across the Navajo Nation. So it would be up to the Navajo Nation Council to identify where these future dollars, if there was going to be tax dollars brought in, would be coming in from, and the Navajo Nation Council would identify where those dollars would be going towards. So it could, in the future, if there was any kind of regulation. The next one, could the Navajo Nation provide better warehouses to control lights and smells for hemp activity? Hypothetically, right now,
Speaker Damon?
Hypothetically, right now, you can't even do hemp activity on the Navajo Nation. Yes, Chairman S.
Yes, the tax question, I contacted Mr. Marty Ashley, and I believe he's on the line, and he probably could answer that question.
Oh, great. Mr. Ashley, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Oh, great. Did you hear the words? Let me go back. It says, could the Navajo Nation benefit from taxation of hemp and marijuana? And if so, how much would it be taxed to? Would the tax from the hemp activity contribute to any kind of funds for the tribe?
I didn't really hear the question, but regarding taxation, the Navajo Nation currently has a sales tax. Now, if this hemp farm, is considered as a business operating on the Navajo Nation, then it's subject to tax. And that tax, the current rate is 6%. That would be due to the Navajo Nation. So, I know that there's an exemption under the sales tax code for agriculture, and I don't know if this is part of that exemption under agriculture. I would need to check with our legal people on that. But that exemption, for hemp could be taken out by legislative action if that's the case. But legal people need to take a look at it.
Right. Thank you. And that's the reason why I'm referring a majority of these questions to the Navajo Nation Department of Justice. I don't know if anybody is on the line for the Department of Justice now. If not, we can continue on. If the next question, if the Navajo Nation were to jump on board with the hemp activity, could we bring the Navajo preference in effect for employment? I guess Chairman Daniel Soda, I don't know if you have a response for that as chairman of the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee that oversees the employment for the Navajo preference from the Division of Personnel Management. But if there were to Navajo Nation be part of this hemp activity, and it was actually funded, I do believe, had to be some kind of Navajo Nation government operation, that would be the only way Navajo preference would be in effect, or is it subjugated to all opportunity, all activity that's on the Navajo Nation? I don't know if you have a response for that, Chairman Daniel. So,
Thank you, Cecilia. I was on mute. Basically, I think it's each of the, what we're faced with is any farmer, if there's rules and regulations are made in the coming days, then each of the farmers then would basically have that particular choice. But if they were to, I guess the main thing is just the fact that the experience that the people bring to the table will basically mean the fact that there has to be focus on Navajo Preference and Employment Act, no matter the entity. And so that's the part that I think is something that the council and, of course, the HES Committee, Health, Education, and Human Services Committee, along with the Resource and Development Committee, would really have to put together joint action, promulgate the necessary aspects on the Navajo and Preference and Employment Act, because it is a new dilemma that we will be facing with. Thank you.
thank you very much, Chairman Daniel So, for that response. Thank you very much for taking time and being part of our discussion too today, Chairman, too, as well. So with that, moving on down to the next question, could the Navajo Nation provide a biodegradable alternative rather than a concrete related to these hemp greenhouse activities? I think that when you're talking about certain initiatives like this, we know we've been trying to reach some of the experts regarding activities, especially from UN NMSU, So we'll, as soon as he gets on, we'll go ahead and refer these questions to him, and we can go from there. So let me go on to our next question. I hope Department of Justice is on the line for this question, because this question is something that maybe even Department of Agriculture as well. There's a question coming in. It says, my question is in regards of hemp activity among the Navajo Nation is, why did it take a farm board president to take the steps towards a new business venture that has the potential to become a multi-million-dollar industry? To answer that question, I think it's a more productive question to say, well, these questions that are coming in on personal activity on the Navajo Nation, we have to remember first and foremost that the Navajo Nation, as indicated from the Department of Justice, has stated that no matter what, if you're moving steps towards a new business venture, there is no way that the Navajo Nation itself has approved or authorized for any kind of business or any kind of opportunity for any personal individual on the Navajo Nation to take steps towards any kind of hemp activity or marijuana activity opportunities. As indicated on our last forum, Navajo Nation Attorney General Lorraine McPaul indicated that Navajo Nation has passed laws and has made that Navajo Nation, anybody moving or making steps towards manufacture or cultivation of hemp is illegal. So in that, I don't know if there's any kind of multi-million-dollar industry. I don't know if anybody has any other comments on that, colleagues, as we wait for the Department of Justice to get on the line.
Speaker Damon, this is
Yes,
Rick.
Go ahead, Chairman.
Back to the first question there. Can the Navajo Nation sign an executive order to start the process to regulate and cultivate hemp and marijuana? The Navajo Nation Councils, under Title II, subsection 500, Article 3, Resources and Development Committee. C, this is what it reads. The committee, meaning Resources and Development Committee, shall exercise oversight authority over land, water, grazing, environmental protection, natural resources, agriculture, it states. Now, I believe this is where the authority lies within the Resources and Development Committee as oversight over agriculture. They are the only ones that could approve any process to regulate and cultivate hemp and move forward to the Navajo Nation Council for approval, because we as a council are the governing body. And if we go down to number 2, it states that to oversee regulation of activities on Navajo Nation lands for disposition or acquisition of resources, surface disturbance or alteration of the natural state of the resource, including the enforcement and administration of applicable Navajo Nation and federal laws, regulations, guidelines, and administrative procedures in development and use of resources as a good steward. Di koro ya yaskiki di nihinan chala stated as tahinal soskayi akodida executive order or gegosh aba hot e di behes ani harador nihigi ben ya di hemp or marijuana then yana ede kidiki Akokwibe ani nego best bahasan but ana nelegi resource and development committee ja. Ajugo ohne basalanela dede natin sa agriculture bedi nenegi akochi aji USDA dan nego podo nahat ahaki chichepet no negon hadanesh in hab Nash Edo Naskado and the Ahit Archibald Nadat and the Gadats no. Job plan a gay but what end in here could I go a sandal Kaki Benia, Pagostot Kingston Lake Benia, a cobesh bahas anage qui egg is a bastilla, no ebacar, a quotide wants to go in his question at all this has Anik echo. Thank you. Sure.
Thank you, Chairman Strickness, for that insight, especially on executive orders. So with that, let's continue on down. One of the next questions is referring back to, I guess, a multi-million-dollar industry, and it's asking that if there was a new enterprise that could give the tribe a chance to thrive and become self-sufficient instead of relying on set incomes, unemployment, welfare, and any other tribal programs that help those in need. Therefore, why is it taking a farm board to do something that our Navajo Nation government could have been doing? I think one of the questions first in responding to that is that any kind of new enterprise that has been created, and I'll take our most recent new enterprise that was created. The most recent enterprise that was created in 23rd Council, a little over 3 years ago, was the Natani Development Corporation. That Natani Development Corporation right now is continuing to grow and continuing to thrive. One of the most critical aspects right now it's trying to do is trying to incorporate the Navajo Nation and getting it into its own goals and its own sovereignty programs in the state of New Mexico. Also, in that, there's also new growth in other areas of our Navajo Nation enterprises. So I think that the Navajo Nation has made significant movements in leading the Navajo Nation and the entire Indian country in thriving towards set incomes, bringing down our unemployment, bringing down individuals on welfare, and other tribal programs, bringing in more dollars, even through the loss of programs or infrastructure dollars or general revenue funds that we have lost through closures like the Navajo Generating Station. The Navajo Nation Council, I think, is doing its part to making sure that all tribal programs will continue to thrive and help those in need. And that's the reason why that this government, I believe in our council and the 24th council, to really try to make sure that we're working together every day. In the past couple of months, it's been working together to get these Navajo Nation care stimulus dollars out to the people that really need it. And most importantly, we listen to you, and we listen to the people and trying to make sure to identify what the realistic goals are in moving forward and getting certain portions of entities funded, whether that's through water lines, power lines, broadband, or helping our people out through small business practice benefits that the Navajo Nation Council has really helped assist in this process. So, colleagues, I don't know if anybody else has anything further to add, but I do believe the Navajo Nation 24th Council, working with its past leadership, has really built enterprises that currently show and thrive to building our own, and in the future, building us to become more in longevity self-sufficient.
Speaker Damon.
Yes. Chairman Nez, go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, you have. in regards to the question about why did it take a farm board to take steps towards a new business venture to become a multi-million-dollar industry, and you did mention the Net Development Corporation. The Net Development Corporation took steps, legal steps, behas anik ekonas yedeshnish. So anhand en gonareda khait ada behas anibik ahayada. They didn't circumvent the law to start the Net Development Corporation. They didn't. So, digi kro ane dene haida habedesh wotnzan gogo hanahat holong gogo shipe has ane ginstoshka. You're going to look at the law and say, what do I need to do to start this business venture? Probably go to the Economic Development Office at Regional Business Development Office and say, okay, what ashanahat Ado taxation, do shahadat or less business license, do shahadat or less. Then that what I did in all can has slid or less. The nego she what she can hat a Holland or less. The Quihanda Nishige, the slide up a health benefit. It other titza gogota. Insurance is because care. What ego than died the kid. What alle the quila ha big epiches lot shut and nistola. As Hogona the kid. A cotide Ashene Yat ehot anda it was kidos spehados it halet what zashi Quinton Jobe has anik echo Hanan Suji. And that need nego habik and at so behas ani big a coco. Asian doors nada. The cushion G laid or less, the Navajo Nation bitch. Oh, that ever and died the kid. I don't think that a heckish Mahas Argo so. Ish or that a heckish when ya, behas ani la in what Adams and so now. Do AOR Jupiter, AOR Kodot, had a Lahan de Shindy, has Anik E. Tiho Handabens, and they art into Kodok about Lash Asian or whatever has Anik at that era. A quiet Shin, I the kid, Lenige Arne, Baby, Ajin al Kage, Dames, so what are they, Bama as ne. Master Dashan, a rated a Kay hat head, that the Laeba hot it on letting das cut up a kidder. 40 quick at hot air on let no. There has Aniki up at Tango. Do not ange illegal. Out of the economic development bash, it's a knob has Annie after has the Leco shape as Annik isn't getting later. Hot Adams, the Net Development Corporation hey what was la is on a shimpe but that album not but it doik a hosh on horoye nasi gosh what ego stop and all share. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharon, Ms. for that insight and continuing effort to having this dialogue and this discussion. That, colleagues, any other comments from colleagues? If not, we can continue going on down then. There, I think one of the, go ahead.
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Amber Chinas-Valcarti. I want to just let the public know that we're on the line. I'm representing the communities of Sheep Springs, Sugar Hills, Tolina, Sanofi, Red Valley, Cove, Kadia, and Baklavato. Thank you, Speaker, for providing this forum and allowing the community to raise their issues and concerns. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Madam Chair Amber Carty, for being on the line too as well. And if there's any comments you have or any discussion items, you're more than welcome to come in and this open dialogue in a response back to individuals here I think primarily a northern agency, but also our concerned citizens across the whole Navajo Nation as well. So let me go ahead and go on down to the next question. It says, why did it take a farm board to do something that our own Navajo Nation government could have been doing? I think what that is referring to, or in reference now, is that why did it take the farm board? I think this is probably referring to San Juan Farm Board to do something that our own Navajo Nation government could have been doing. I think the question is that in reference again, the Navajo Nation Farm Board in this case has done something that under the current Navajo Nation law is illegal. And that was something that was clearly stated by the Navajo Nation Department of Justice Attorney General on our last forum. And I wish he was on the line right now to express that again, that the Farm Board is acting out of its, from what I can say, that what was recommended or was what was perceived by the Navajo Nation Department of Justice Attorney General's comment is that the Farm Board did do something, but it has done something that has not been approved by the Navajo Nation Council. I don't know if anybody has any further comments on that question.
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Yes, Madam Chair, go ahead.
Thank you, Shitala Speaker Damon. Honorable Chairman Daniel So, Honorable Amber Crotty. So, Speaker, I do want to clarify that although hemp, the cultivation of hemp outside of NAPI is illegal, I think that, people just, the way that DOJ had explained the action, and I think people need to be clear of this, is that when activities are occurring, that it's very important that people follow through and that they report any illegal activities that are happening. And this can be done through the Department of Public Safety, the Navajo Nation Police Department. And I believe Jesse Delmar, the division director, did state that at the last radio forum. And so I think it just needs to be reiterated that these actions do need to be documented.
Madam Chair? Madam Chair, can you hear me? Madam Chair Charles Newton? Okay. Well, with that, thank you, Madam Chair. I might have lost you. If there is any other response right now, any other my other colleagues?
Mr. Speaker, this is Leo Watchman, the Department of Agriculture. If you allow me to provide a comment on this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Watchman, for being on in this discussion this afternoon. Go ahead.
Well, just a little bit of clarification from the Department of Agriculture. Just a little bit of going back to when hemp was, I guess you can say, had provided some legalization to the growth of hemp under the USDA Farm Bill. The Navajo Nation took the position that if we were to provide rules and regulations, we would then be a licensing agency to anyone providing hemp growth on federal lands. Unfortunately, what took place is that there was a misrepresentation by the local farm board to say they were given the authorization to provide rules and regulations to the federal agency. theirs were prompt a understanding from the USDA to state they basically informed Navajo that we have an application for rules and regulation that was put together by the San Juan Farm Board. As they went through it, the Navajo Nation, through the Department of Justice and the Department of Ag and others, said, you don't have the authorization to submit such an application for rules and regulation. So the Farm Board itself, it was deemed that they weren't given authorization or to provide any such application. It needed to go back to the Navajo Nation to basically, since the USDA through their legislation cited that you can grow hemp for experimental or study, but if you chose to distribute, then you would have to provide some form of rules or regulations in Indian country. And at this point, we have not provided that. And basically by the Navajo Nation has not chose to do so. However, the Farm Board has been progressive, and to their credit, they found a niche to do that, but unfortunately they didn't follow what is prescribed under Navajo Nation law on going through its process. So that's kind of where we're at to try to put this in perspective. It isn't that the Farm Board, I guess you can say, provided, in our estimation, we're saying if they had the authorization, then it would be legal. However, they did not gain any authorization from the Navajo Nation Council nor the Resource Committee, so it's deemed illegal from the Department of Agriculture standpoint. So that's what we've been stating to Dene and the local Farm Board, that follow the process, and then we would be in line with an application to USDA. Hopefully that provides a little bit of understanding. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sylvia Watchman, for that clarity. With that, I think we do have Madam Chair Charles Newton back on the line. Did you want to continue, Madam Chair?
Yes, Speaker. I just wanted to say really quickly that I think that there needs to be, again, more clarification to the people that hemp is approved only for purposes of testing. So I guess in a way, the question that I have for DOJ in this case is hemp legal at NAPI? I think there's a lot of confusion that because there was the approval of hemp there needs to be and side of NAPI. So again, I'm hoping that DOJ is on the line. I have been texting the AG asking where she's at, but I haven't received a response yet from either the Attorney General or the Deputy Attorney General for what's going on with that, Speaker. But at the same time, I think it's also important that our listeners understand. As council delegates, we do try to work directly with executive directors, and we, give them that opportunity to come out and explain things that are happening. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out perfectly where we have them willing to cooperate with council. And I don't know exactly what is going on, Speaker, but we do not have the people who were called upon at this forum. And so we keep calling upon them, but they're not answering. So I think that needs to be, the people of the Navajo Nation need to be made aware of that. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And again, this public, second forum for hemp is continuing, and hopefully we get better participation from our executive partners in the future. But most importantly, I think that we're here, and this shows that the Navajo Nation Council is continuing to work towards getting solutions and recommendations. And some of those recommendations and solutions are coming in form of legislation. And you'll be seeing some more of those legislations that are being worked on right now with the Navajo Nation, not only with the legislative branch, but also, again, with Office of Legislative Counsel, in really trying to come up with solutions in this, in some of these areas, not only to really create a path forward, but most importantly, creating solutions for our people that are on there in any way. So, again, thank you very much for everybody. Again, this is we're going into our second hour of our live forum on YouTube, Facebook, and Vimeo. To our usual listeners that are out there, thank you very much for being a part of our discussion. But we also are here on KNDN and KGAK. Thank you very much for the listeners out there as well for listening in on our issue. We're talking about hemp activity there prominently in the northern agency region along the San Juan River and along the communities that touch up and rub up against the San Juan River. So again, thank you to my colleagues of the Northern Agency, but also colleagues throughout the Navajo Nation, members of the council that are on the line. So let's go ahead and go back to a couple of these questions. I know that in reference, we're taking questions from the public that were, usually we do have public forums, but in this case, since we couldn't have a public forum, we had individuals bringing in bringing in questions, sending in questions to the speaker's office. So thank you very much for your questions that you've sent in. The next question is that I do believe is a really good question. It says, does the Navajo Nation Council have medical experts on the panel? There are many uses for CBD products for hemp. Our indigenous people, our natural healing methods from plants and the earth. Our people need education on this. So back to that, I guess, does the Navajo Nation Council have medical experts on the panel? I think most importantly, when Chairman Rick Nez sponsored legislation to really have a testing site approved at NAPI, I think that in sitting down with that chairman, maybe you could go over and explain who all, and maybe even Chairman Daniel So could do further clarification as well on how that got to that point and who the experts were on from NMSU that really broke down and had the thought and foremost of trying to get these testing sites for hemp that's only approved on that NAPI location through your legislation. Chairman?
Thank you, Speaker Damon. Arosnan Anasanigi Beshmas Ankoro Han Sabashin Hostan Hiton Nido A Koro Dides Kidikinat Ahan Sabashibana Hidnandla. We'll do our best to answer some of these questions. Now, the way that it all started was about a year ago that I was asked by Navajo Agricultural Products Industry to sponsor legislation. Sabetan Hadid Ahegi Korobenha Naswadi Listin or Kahagi research, but Ada Ohito Ashpania, Don Hashchin Saaja, Daus Kaki, or the Hos A Nasco Hotate Old Katiki. Jo that did meso, but Adon Hinan Stodans and Nishi Benina A Aja. Na Kagi a research gave and much hours and all litigation. But Ege at ego toy Asagi or Geda de hemp as at ego a or Gela. Dingo es at ego egg that's delia. Kida the delegato hot abits ado a ha. San anno seco. That then set a hand that you seco. When it begins to grow, they take samples. But Hogin le Hagoshin L.E. ad in des casa dida dela THC or gehegi in case na e sahagi e koho e yaha bahla for the don't nisigi benega e hot a kon al eben in na eb akwi has agi hok aje kaya hot saje e yaha be balla as lane de dos kato master in the future, maybe a couple more years. Hey, hot sajida. A trati, hemp, but ain't in a gig, that's a daily out that's a hate. So, but add on the date, asked on shit and natty, the banana should add, then a gay banana had no economic development, nanish had no chat, no. ADK, but that's it all less, no hate. I, pohonets, Hajo at all nesto hajo be has ani bahad all nesto be kaho enas for all nesige eb and nachi eb hotest and anana khayda e gachko e khande appens lit ayan est ed up and yeta so e hot abella as later a kotiri again hidden a she neda na a kohalet a multi-million-dollar industry, but no, what she go has added a cat and a let your code and died a kid. Ah, nigga, go like go best, but not all nego go hashit. I has any do kick at the rata. Or that Egon died a kid again by Ben Kitchen. A kotiri kodo bahas kigibin in a bahanyago. Sen harchendo ajen dar kapar alt kan lenige banana should I just senige hande hajo de dos ka aro khaydige e ha fait anas kage banach e la na hin zendo naste e shige se ajen Barcelona nation lenige goye in hisnda hord na go e a ne dan la go chon echodan La go chon a co eben yakodo but ahnas tene hasht e neto hate a yaha a job has ani be kek a go e the don e gesipen yeto e ha host ne hon that the do jato shiti andele aden hitak at andeti Tratsen da belate andenle na din slat the set kid go debit trogi and dag hon no safe shan Hot eger van sakes. At the end of the marijuana, I guess, though it need a hot has agate the nerteben and tendo hajo, or late elinigate a cocoroni sabaha or z, Hela egg sabastella. At Neneke, a cosinat ani, egg subshin bastella hot anal sauce bahad or nesto. So she hobon hit akhad or lesa got it ahiat and this kako on the taib and era husband. Salage go yada is katoi the hon in ebenin not ago, then hikajan not all sauce aid of and yada. Ebar has taken in has your said or national kagi foundation bait atnas and nigga ask Kate is go a master khams at the shin. It never could okay had to look at the less wins in a shade on this got that a conde echo has agit egg so or so go bahas did here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that information, Chairman Ness. I don't know, Chairman Daniel, so if you had any more to add on to that.
Thank you. So to here, Craigie, and now when I give that always so bahas so what the for at least base of the natural door, the sea. I can't lay Washington don't be his army who longs it. So what at the could Hemp will ye heggy. Achisi but since Kizibaho, so I Hinton the milk ado list and Zenigi, the Dinidigi, Equaki, Sato, Bible plan, Edo list. Hey, what has Dolly, Quaggy? Either Dolly go named Dolly, so Quaggy, one honey Dolly. Diggy has your son at us. They hard in the Abe his army. Nature art Dolly. Do what I say what oh, deep his army. Because it's the instro. Okokwaje, ato I see the tribal plan will yegi ato which is the kata kwaje shansi nabin trato le. Do kwagi ek kwaje ak echotaje aje e shan arkedon iklaho in his bed husband New Mexico State University experiment station is ne kwagi. What Ada belongs league is Nizna, this is Nanigo. O Kojonatin, this is a when Chako, a quaggy cat dolye. No Sefako. A quaggy betat on Igi, but on Igi, don't label let no settligi a Panapiho, a Kojo. Certified lab, which is not installed. The area, the cardo, the space, the quagation area in this car. But not area, the Sicilia, Yaki, 0.03 THC. So that quaggy not kiddo, yap, yago, a quaggy, the hemp, will yet only. Only. Washington that is on Iliagi 8 equal in thou base of because old Kaigi 4%, 0.04, 0.05. Not kiddo marijuana catch no safe. The Kaigi kiddo the Kaigi had the whole spawn. So 8 the what door me. Quaggy say what because a tango. Quaggy belato lis quaggy nays not this is on nigo, not teen. What Ada. Oh, Ashimiga. So quaggy dot ezigi. Little dish shit. Katoban siski sigi the natchet. Ado nido. Me yet a agenda ni tato nana kai. Slak ha to yadre. Honil soigi without that dilge. A ton later with his army. A liagi out banana te up kinana shit. No setty give a keho. Down with is the leho. I say that out le, it or down a kill. How on the a quaggy a deep, he gave it's it gives so quaggy, will the cut no settlegi. A quadro lab nully. I do the queen nowadays at the same so when none none I gave bigger no settlegi random sample, John. Deep a the THC will you have personal ito, nal base to quaggy ito, hello, yes, possessive and count sheet, to quaggy hit, Canil eggy THC has base in a quaggy 19 idolic. What quaggy to a right his aunt Michiko Navajo Nation will be his aunt at the old Laho to none such a at Sestegi the same me so what Ellen has to his aunt, yeah, what a yada kitten day lê the thing like Quaggy show, whale self, Quaggy hot nana eight or the east on art. So, she Quaggy. Quaggy has auto lift to Winton. Oh, nasty she, oh, a zo a liago she, oh, but nothing she in all time. They laugh to live, but nothing she so unhit in there. They'll need to live. Joe Quaggy, what oh, a bunch of case. He Quaggy has zo be his auntie, Codon Washington, the be his auntie. Oh, O'Neill Edo lift, oh, even not a Quaggy. Oh, could be his auntie, but they liad, oh, Quaggy tribal plan, Egin Junon, the sea, calls to Quaggy. Based on her son, you can then go. So is she a illegal day? Ado Quaggy president over J.E. Lago. The illegal day. Oh, come cut the Haslagi said in there. And then of that, a con the Quaggy sample will Yagi random sample ye Yanda of Jato lake. So Quaggy saying what say what he said better had it I need that only so then say Quaggy don't leave this shit 5 acres. I thought I could tribal plan he given that the Nisto Quaggy so he studied Winston so it none such a how be his only but tuck his own she did she did it over at least he seemed to have need a she that again need a Quaggy a she that DJ could itself whoa at the joy at the internet a Quaggy under even now a Quaggy is still in with his auntie though over O'Neill in the Quaggy tribal plan a could us Leo Watchman could to at a Kazo a housing ho at a head or toast me Mrs. Yahija or could I don't the Christian has ongoing not so zone as Neldo listened a Quaggy Sasso. Need Kahon the Hashing that you up with, but that whole neatly. A lot of ounce and say Quaggy. Nini Gishin need Kaho the Hollow. A Quaggy what as unhallow or Edo said the nurse case and what are in hitch and has state or left or Satoshi Azor Shan Isla. What Ayla? The Chile. Speaker Damon.
Thank you very much, Chairman Daniel. So I don't know if there's anybody else, colleagues, in response to that, medical experts, has the Navajo Nation Council referred to any of them?
This was Chairman Hino.
Chairman Hino, good afternoon. Welcome. Oh, go ahead, Chairman. If you have a response, the floor is yours.
Speaker Damon, Chairman Daniel So, Chairman Rick Nez, Chairwoman Eugenia Charles Lynn, Jamie Hindi, and Shiam Kochinde Nasha, Chairman of the Budget and Finance Committee. He's a song. It's 3 o'clock. I've been listening in on the call and all the questions that are being asked. And it's interesting as far as this topic of hemp McGee has come to the forefront because of an action in Northern Agency. So I'm going to head by here. And the question here is, why don't we have medical experts advising the council? And that's a really, really good question. And especially on the uses, advantages of the BD oil, ADG, that's derived from the hemp plants. And from there, we do need also our own traditional practitioners. As we saw, the house in the Gidimle, as they and the Kiedido, as they enter herbalist technique. So ADG, to be an advisor to the Navajo Nation, whether it be the legislative branch, which is the Navajo Nation Council, or the executive branch. But I think what needs to happen is both the executive and legislative branch need to both work together on this issue and come together with one position. And all around us, Navajo Nation, you see people are going into the hemp production business. But it's it's highly regulated though, meaning that it's part of the cannabis family. And marijuana and hemp are both considered to be cannabis sativas. But with marijuana, it's for narcotics. So but hemp, mostly in the history and origin of hemp. I was doing some researching on this topic here, and it originated from Central Asia. And back in the early days, they were using it for its fiber content to make ropes and to make clothes and different types of fiber. As time progressed, though, it has migrated to the United States of America. And people started using that for, again, the same thing, to make ropes and paper and clothing and many uses for hemp, even making boards. So, but it was outlawed in the United States in the early 1900s. Although in that 2018, Congress finally took another look at it, and with the 2018 Farm Bill, they allowed it, but with strict regulations to make sure that there's a certain percentage of THC that it has to be under. If it goes over, then it's illegal to cultivate marijuana. That's what it becomes. So, but with this, what's happening on Navajo Nation, and all of these ads I've been listening to day in and day out from KGAK, defending the use of the cultivation of hemp, ADG, it makes you think. Okay, what position do we take here? Because we have to abide by the Navajo Nation laws, which we, through RDC, have not created any type of regulations on the cultivation of hemp. This is a small pilot project, So it goes back to the question: do we have medical experts? I believe we do need to start consulting with our some medical experts to bring awareness to the council, to the executive branch, and even to the judicial branch, and the people of the Navajo Nation on what is hemp and what are the pros and cons of hemp. Everybody talks about the pros, meaning it's the CBD oil is used for different ailments like arthritis, muscle aches, and even the fiber content, as I spoke of earlier. But then again, there's always the opposite side to everything. And that's something that we also need to know is what are the side effects of hemp. And so that's where we need to really look at an advisory council or a committee made up of medical experts. And earlier I spoke about having the traditional practitioners, healing practitioners. So that's my take on that question, as that was asked earlier. So I got along to the speaker, Damon, and we'll wait for the next question to come up again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Henio. Thank you again, everyone, for listening in too. Well, again, if there are no other comments on that, colleagues, they can go on to our next question. And this
Speaker
one,
Damon, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
oh, go ahead, Madam Chair, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker. So I think one of the big questions that we have been basically dancing around, or the issue, is that there's no regulations in place. Is there a way that we, the 24th Navajo Nation Council, can address this issue today? And if we were to address this issue today, what kind of effect would that have with what's going on with the current situation with hemp? And so that's really the first question. My second one is, I think that we have been asked over and over, Hajin Sinat Ani. And so I think it's important to clarify again that the job of council is to legislate, to be the oversight of our divisions, departments, and branches. And what's happening today, and I think that as a means of not, not really kind of shaking that boat, we have talked about this at council, but I think that the bottom line is not receiving very much cooperation from the executive branch. And so what I'm telling people is, I'm not a police officer. I cannot go in and tell a farmer what they can and cannot plant on their land. I'm also not the court, and the case is being litigated. And we, as council delegates, can't tell the court how to rule in this case. And the case was heard on Monday with the Shiprock District Court. And I know that we have Madam AG on the line, so maybe we can get her to talk a little bit about what happened on Monday, so that we can inform the people of what's happening. And then the last question that I have is not really a question, but the questions that were submitted via email to council delegates, the one that we received at 2:00. A lot of people are asking, how did people submit those questions? And I think a lot of people still have questions that are not being addressed, particularly with the issues regarding the non-Navajos who are currently employed at these farms. I hear that there are non-Navajos. I have seen them personally. And then also, I think the other question is, the water that's being used with these farms, whether that is water that was allocated with farming, and whether that water is something that I guess should be addressed as far as the question of what was the intent of the water being used with these farms. So I think there's a lot of questions that are still coming about, and I'm hoping that that with Madam AG on the line, we can get some of these questions clarified. So that, Speaker, I'm going back on mute. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, let me go to Madam AG, and are you online, Ms. Paul?
Yes, Speaker, I'm here.
Oh, good afternoon. Thank you for being part of this discussion. I don't know if you heard the first two questions from Madam Chairwoman Charles Newton. Maybe then a third question, I know we have Jason John on the line too as well. Maybe he could be an expert on our water question. But Madam AG, I don't know if you heard those first two questions, if you want to give a response back to Madam Chair.
I think the question that I heard for DOJ that was directed at me was to give an update on the hearing that happened on the 10th. Was there another question for me?
What was your, I think the first one could help clarify that question. Madam Charles Newman, that first question that you had?
Speaker, the first question was actually for you, and it may also involve Madam AG to this question, but we currently have no regulations in place. Is there a way to address this today? So if council were to prepare regulations and we were to get those implemented, let's say by Friday, what would that mean? And would it change things with what's currently going on in here, I guess, in the Northern Agency? That was my first question. And my second question is just an update on the hearing that happened on Monday. Thank you.
Well, let me answer the first question then, because that was directed towards myself. I don't know, Ms. Dana Barbroff's on the line for Office Legislative Council, but the question, if we created a regulation policy, one, I think we would have to create understand where we were going to get the funding to create a regulation. And if we were going to move forward in those regulations, I think there had to be a regulatory authority, just like how Navajo Nation created a gaming regulatory office. We would have to create some kind of our own internal regulatory office for hemp. And in doing that, I think we would have to identify where those budgetary funds are going to be coming from. Two, probably have to clearly identify a policy in place to really clarify these regulations. And in that policy making, I think that if we were going to specifically create new recommendations for that, I think it really would have to be in cooperation, not only with the Navajo Nation Council, but really we needed a cooperation with the executive branch. And I think that's what Chairman Hinu is referencing to when his response was about further moving in a direction. But as indicated, I have not heard any recommendations from the executive branch, specifically from the president or vice president on hemp. I'm not too sure if any of my colleagues have, but again, this is something that was referred and recommended for the council to start this dialogue and discussion and moving in that direction. I think that the most the most current recommendation I can say then from this, to answer your question, Madam Chair, is that if we get policy in place, one, would it pass the Navajo Nation Council? I'm not too sure. Two, if the council is going to put in place any kind of recommendation or any kind of regulation moving forward, now would those actually be in place to really try to identify us in that goal, in that respect? And that's something I think that would be a bigger debate at council rather than me to answer that question here currently. I know that there was a question of us passing regulations in the 23rd Council. Unfortunately, that never got to the final vote, but I think that's something that there's been stepping stones in place to get us there. And maybe, Madam Chair, Charles Newton, what we can do is work together on trying to answer that question and seeing if we do bring some kind of regulation to the floor of the council. I think through the process, we'd really need the executive branch, more importantly, to help open up that dialogue, specifically working together with the Department of Justice as well. Thank you. That, Madam Attorney General, I don't know if you want to continue on with that question, number one, and then I guess we'll give an update on number two, what Madam Charles Newman was asking of you.
Okay, thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Delegate Charles Newton, for the questions there. And just to follow up on some of the comments that Speaker made there and to address your question, I just wanted to share that we do have some draft regulations here at Department of Justice that our Natural Resources Unit is working on with Department of Ag. And the way the resolutions set up anticipate hemp regulations for the Navajo Nations under Department of Ag. And I think all the questions that Speaker raised in terms of funding, in terms of how the department is going to be staffed to do that kind of enforcement are all questions that need to be answered. But USDA is awaiting Navajo Nation to submit its own regulations. And USDA has reached out regarding this a couple of times. And we do have a call tomorrow with USDA just to give them a status update. Just to talk about, tie that into the hearing, one of the things that we let USDA know was that one of the pleadings that was filed in the litigation against Dene Benally, where there was a claim in one of his filings that the USDA has approved his regulations for hemp, and that is absolutely false. And so we wanted USDA to be aware that that was a claim made by Mr. Benally in a court pleading. The other thing that we wanted USDA to know was that on their website, there are sort of status updates for all of the various regulations that have been proposed to USDA for various tribes across the country. And the San Juan River Farm Board submitted regulations of its own, which the USDA denied. But if you look at the website, it doesn't actually say that they were denied. It says awaiting resubmission. And there isn't an option for denied, at least in their key. And so I know that the USDA is awaiting the Navajo Nation to resubmit those regulations on behalf of the Navajo Nation as a whole. And so we do have a call with USDA tomorrow just to give them an update. And like I mentioned, we do have some draft regulations that we can work on with Council and with Department of Ag to have the nation's regulations approved by Council and then submitted to USDA. And then just to provide an update on the hearing on Monday, there was a hearing on Dene Benally's motion to dismiss. This is a motion that he filed asking for the nation's complaint that was filed on June 11th to be dismissed for two reasons. The first reason was that his corporate, two of the corporate defendants, Navajo Gold and Native American Agriculture Company, he's arguing that neither of those two corporate entities exist. They're sort of, I think they describe them as trade names that he used, but neither are actually actual businesses. And I just want to share that we did update the Council that Navajo Gold is not a registered business to do business on the Navajo Nation, although Native American Agricultural Development Company is, but it's not in good standing, at least the last time DOJ checked with the Business Regulatory Department. So that was one of the arguments that he made, is that the complaint, the Navajo Nation's complaint, needed to be dismissed because these corporate entities do not exist. I do also want to point out that the Native American Agricultural Company is the company that the San Juan River Farm Board in 2018 issued a hemp cultivation license. And that license was both signed by Dene Benally as president of the farm board and issued to himself as president of the Native American Agricultural Development Company. But in his motion, he's saying that they don't exist. The other argument that was raised at the hearing on Monday was that the San Juan River Farm Board needs to be included as a party to the complaint. And so that was an argument that was made. There was a third argument that was made that wasn't in the pleading, basically that the complaint needs to be brought to the farm board and decided by the farm board. And if there is unhappiness with a decision that comes from the farm board, then that goes to the Office of Hearing and Appeals. So there was an issue raised at the hearing itself regarding the court's jurisdiction. And so the court asked the parties to brief the issue of jurisdiction in the next 10 days. So those are due to the court on the 20th, so this Thursday, and then the court will reset a hearing. The nation, when we filed the complaint at the beginning of June, on June 11th, we also asked for a temporary injunction, and Mr. Benally opposed that temporary injunction, and we are still awaiting the court to set a hearing on our June 11th motion for a temporary injunction to stop the hemp production. Thank you, Speaker. Those are my responses to the questions raised. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, colleagues, there's about 3 minutes left with the live forum on KNDN and KGAK. So let me give about a minute each to Chairman Nez and Madam Chair Charles Newman, and maybe a minute to Madam Chair Amber Crotty from the Northern Agency. This is your area. These are the areas you represent. Chairman Nez?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Damon. Arwana for Kehedaisnos Agi, Arash Nados Kenosini. Koroi Hunzashin, or Kitten Lekroti, Hemp, by need on the Nahit, Ado, Hate, Shindik, a tit, Hornlene, like as an Eliki, Line. I see it unseen, though the Ohut Erd agenda, but big height. It has other no science to have on each and the had email that it all late on him and arrow yen, either know that they need ego, edo, Nassit, Bahazania. Oh, Job has on a bicahal in it a hat, Bicahal just ego in ya, other Hanan ships of Sundo Johansson. Job has on a give a cake echo, adult, Naskeit, is the leasing, is the little Hanan, she just Sundo Lake, at all here, Arnold, what I not say. Thank you.
And Chair.
Thank you, Speaker. I just want to say that I think that our people who are listening out there can contact us as delegates and let us know the issues that are happening, but also the concerns. And that's part of our responsibility, is to listen to the people. I oftentimes share my information at the chapter house. And so if you need to get a hold of me, you can call to the chapter house. They will relay all back so that we can have these types of discussions. So please reach out and reach out to your delegates and talk to them about these issues. So thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Madam Chair Amber Crotty.
Thank you, Speaker, my colleagues, all of our relatives who have listened online. I think what this forum represents is there needs to be more discussion, more dialogue, more room to have questions, and how we can, and my part is to make sure that if laws are on the books, how do we enforce these regulations? I think it's critical when we talk about not only hemp, but other products, is how do we fully regulate so that our community is part of that process, so they know how they are protected, how we can talk to individuals who want to develop and farm in our communities, how to be good neighbors, how to create and keep those relationships, and then how Navajo Nation Council delegates can continue to advocate. And so I believe as much conversation as we can will help us develop dynamic solutions and look at this issue not only with all of its issues and problems that we're currently addressing, but also looking at some positive solutions and how we can move forward. So thank you, colleagues and the delegates. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Kat, from the Speaker's Office of 24 and the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Have a good evening, everyone. Stay and please make sure to keep your families and everybody in our prayers throughout the Navajo Nation. Yeah.
From the heart of Dene country, KNDN, Farmington.